Dear boomers, I just got off a Zoom with my meditation teacher, and since it's fresh on my mind, I thought I'd let you all know what we are up to. His name is Will Johnson, and he will be on an actual YouTube show, and I'm trying to see if I can do it live or not, on Monday, the 22nd of April at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Will is just one of those free spirits who is a Buddhist. He's been studying Buddhism most of his life, and he has had other teachers. He's had teachers himself, but now he is a meditation teacher to many of us. And he would like to get the word out about cannabis and meditation. And that is probably somewhat of what we will talk about, but not necessarily cannabis in itself or meditation in itself, but meditation as a form of breathing that the Zen world doesn't necessarily embrace, because most of the Zen world is into a very constricted body thing, and it has to do with breathing through the nose, inhale and exhale. It really isn't much of a breath. That's what I'm trying to say. And breathing is part of what Will has been teaching me and my husband before I started working with Will for at least 5 years. And when Tom was working with Will, my husband Tommaso, he was so enthralled by everything that Will was teaching. But at the time, I don't really believe Will was into the cannabis and the meditation and the breathing thing as he is now. So this morning we were talking about how the breath can be, even though you're moving the breath in his teaching, moving the breath, and also the Buddhist teaching, because Buddha said that let the body be full of breathing, not just a little breathing, but a full breathing through the body, up and down and in and out, and embracing everything that is in the universe. And so this sort of breathing is what keeps us alive, and going out into the world and noticing all the people who are not breathing. They really are not breathing. They become angry. They become, they cut you off on the road. They complain, and they are full of anger about the past and the grievances and that boss and this boss. That's why I retired, essentially. I couldn't stand the negativity in the workplace. If people had been embracing of and grateful of the people that were in their lives, instead of just bashing them all the time. So they tried not to, but they did. That is why the workplace is so toxic, and that is why going out into the world is toxic. And as A Course in Miracles teaches, the thinking of the world should not be what we are and how we react. Anything outside of ourselves really should have no effect on us if we are breathing mindfully, and if we allow the awareness of life come through our bodies and teach us. Our breath can be the greatest teacher of all. Will actually wrote a book, has written many books. The one book I like and transformed my way of thinking was a meditation retreat that he went on, and he documented his breathing journey throughout about a week of his time, and he was moved by the great thinkers of the world that as it pertained to the breath. And Will is Jewish, but he incorporated all of the great religions of the world in this book. And by day 3, he suddenly allowed the breath to harmonize, probably his heart and his brain. Harmonizing the heart and the brain can be the greatest healer of the world. So he wrote that book, and then he also wrote a book well, the postures of meditation is what he's most known for. And that has to do with, the sitting bones and the way that we sit as we meditate. But he also encourages great movement with the meditation sessions. And there's a certain kind of fast breathing that really does, it jars the whole body into a state of awakening. I don't think he talks much about that in his books. And then the Cannabis book, which has alienated him from the Zen Buddhist world, because the Zen Buddhist people, we love them. They are not into substances of any kind and become rather rigid about even drinking coffee, or certainly not anything else, not smoking marijuana or smoking cigarettes or even sugar, and, becoming kind of monk-like. Or years ago I had taken a course and did the practices for years, taught by Paramahansa Yogananda. He was very strict, very, very strict. And after a while I thought to myself, well, I love him. The Autobiography of a Yogi. Read that book. It's a spiritual classic of a lifetime. And I guess it was written, if I forget, maybe in the 1920s. And it describes his adventures in the world of spirit. He had past lives that dealt with him being very, very spiritual. That word is thrown around too much, but I think you get my meaning. So we did those, and my husband and I did those practices. And my brother and his wife, Jala, we did those practices every week. We got together and we did the breathing as taught by Paramahansa Yogananda. And he was a proponent of hour-long, if not more, and at Christmas time, 8-hour meditations, which I did get into. Those times were very intense. In fact, when I do 3-hour meditations with Will by Zoom, at the end of that, I feel like there's no way that I can function in the world after that. I used to go to work after that, and it was really a miserable experience. But I think, in many ways, these meditation practices are meant to unplug from the world. And they are meant to, as we unplug from the world, we don't have to produce anything, except that we are laying the groundwork for being able to be productive in a future moment, like maybe tomorrow. And so Will Johnson's going to be on my show at 11 o'clock on the 22nd of April. And I must tell you that we have planned to do several of these. He is so full of life and so full of wisdom, and I have contacts that I want to expose him to, because he is not a guy who's on social media, and he's really not, he doesn't have a YouTube presence, although I think I first heard of him, I first saw him social media on YouTube, so I think he might have a channel. I'll check into that. And his wisdom is just unbelievable. He's about 77 years of age, and when you get into our 70s, we start to think, oh my God, if we have a message, we need to get it out into the world. And I can't really expect Will to start, producing a Facebook page, an Instagram page, getting onto TikTok. That's ridiculous. He will never do those things because he's in a different world. He lives in Costa Rica, and at the end of August, he's going to have a retreat in Costa Rica that people can sign up for, and we'll discuss that on the show on the 22nd. That would be great, but I don't go anywhere. I hang out here, and today it's raining, it's beautiful, it's very dark, and wind, it's blowing everything around, and I just like to be home. And of course I have an elderly dog, and I can't leave her. I can't leave her with anybody either, because she is very, even though she doesn't pay much attention to me, she actually does pay attention to me. She would not like it if I went anywhere. So, not going to Costa Rica at the end of August, but maybe you can. And then you will watch the live. I don't know if I can do it on live. I'll ask somebody to help me. But we can get people interested in what Will has to say and what his contributions are. And I have always wanted him to get embraced by the Ram Dass community, and I have reached out to them, and they really haven't responded back. But maybe this is the moment where we can get them to see, because I think they would be open to cannabis and meditation. If anybody would be, they would be. And I have used cannabis when I meditate, and I do just a little bit. It's like a homeopathic dose of cannabis when I meditate. And it is a very, very transforming experience. And that also means that I can't do anything for the rest of the day, which is fine. Who needs to always do? We have to sometimes rest and let things sink in. Let the universe tell us and guide us as to the next step in our development here on Earth and there in the next realm of consciousness, in the quantum fields, as it were. And speaking of the quantum fields, Dr. Joe Dispenza is about to release a documentary called Source. And that is a show that explains the science behind elevating states of consciousness. And the more we work on elevating our states of consciousness with gratitude, the more quantum we become. We kind of get out of the Newtonian physics kind of thing. So having said that, I love you all. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. I am Kate Loving Shank of KateLovingBusiness.com. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and get notifications as to when I come on again, which is every day. I don't know how long this YouTube video will take to process, but it may take a while. So, love to you. Bye-bye.